What's going on, Nick?
How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, dude. Good to see you in person.
Yeah, likewise, man. It's been a while.
Crazy. Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks for taking the time to meet with me today. I really appreciate it.
Dude, it's my pleasure. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. So, this is Beyond the Blueprint, the podcast where we explore the journey of exceptional individuals who have crafted lives and careers that defy conventional paths. Today, I'm incredibly excited and honored to welcome a very special guest, someone I know personally and who has had a profound impact on my professional and personal development, and Dr. Nick Egan. So I appreciate you coming on the show today, man. We don't have a ton of time, but I definitely want to, get out what I can and do a little bit of introduction of myself on you, and then the first onset, I'd like you to kind of give a little bit of background on you. But for those of you may not know him, Nick is a highly sought after performance coach, strategist, and the author of best-selling book Shift, the Art of Transforming Limitations. And I actually read it, great book twice, I can say. So great book, and I can highly recommend that. He holds a PhD in Buddhist philosophy and has a remarkable ability to blend ancient wisdom with modern actionable strategies to help leaders and high achievers reach their full potential. He's worked with many executives and teams on some of the most innovative companies in the world. And what sets Nick apart from his own Beyond the Blueprint story, his journey that's taken him from academia to boardrooms to major corporations. So, with that, I'd really like to introduce you, Nick, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks again for having me, James.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, can you let's just dive in. So, this show is just about your life and kind of where you started, where you're at now. But I'd like to hear, what you started on your journey to kind of get to where you are now from your childhood. I mean, even you can go back as far as you want, but enlighten me,
Yeah.
man. I'm very curious.
So, as a kid, my family, so my father and mother, were both entrepreneurs, and so I think that got ingrained in me pretty early on, and always had kind of an entrepreneurial mindset. And so, because of that, it allowed me to just try different things and to go in different directions, but to always have like an eye toward, being manufacturing something or creating something for ourselves that propel us along in terms of our life. And so that could be, making a small business. It could be studying something. It could be doing whatever it is that you're choosing to do. But that entrepreneurial spirit was something that was really early on for me, and I think that made a huge difference just in terms of my life.
Man, that's incredible. What did they do as entrepreneurs? What were their businesses?
They were real estate investors, so they did real estate development and investment. Yeah, so
Okay.
like multifamily real estate. Still are. My dad passed away a couple years ago. My mom still is kind of managing things. Um, yeah,
Sorry to
so
hear that.
so real estate is kind of the background. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, okay. And then after that, so that helped your foundation of being an entrepreneur, and then I guess all throughout college and high school and college, but like when did you there's some Asia in your
Oh
background
yeah,
studying
yeah.
Buddhism. When did that come later
No, it came
or
early actually. So I started studying martial arts as a young kid, and that was something that got me into it. But I always sort of had an eye toward philosophy and kind of thinking about the world and all of that, like ancient mysteries and meditation and sort of like the power of the mind, the power of positive thinking. And so even as a kid, I used to go to the bookstore and just read all of those books, and then really studied, meditation and philosophical systems. And Buddhism is like my personal belief system, religion, but also, it's from my perspective, like the nature of the mind is even broader than that. Like you don't necessarily have to be Buddhist to have an experience that is fundamental to the core of who we are as humans. And so that's accessible to anybody.
right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So I started meditating quite young when I
that
was 16.
okay, okay. Um, and so 16 and about meditation, like what do you I kind of want to touch on that, but meditation, how do you feel like that can be used in our day to day in our professional work environments, and what does that do to the mental state if we do take on a practice of doing meditation? Like, what are the perks of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, in some ways, meditation and spiritual practice, I'll just call it meditation, consciousness-based practices, they're not necessarily the greatest thing for happiness, right? Like you might be better off just like getting a good hobby and like going for a walk and like connecting with family and friends. Not to say that meditation creates unhappiness. It's just like there are many shorter, kind of easier paths to a kind of worldly happiness. But if you're really looking for like a stability of mind and a practice that's going to get you in touch with what I consider like the deepest layers of consciousness, and then therefore there is great happiness kind of on the other side of it, then yes, meditation is the way to go. And I sort of straddle this line between like, yeah, mindfulness. I know it's kind of in vogue right now. Maybe not so much now, but it has been over the past 10 years. And how effective is that really for like the average practitioner? And so it's like, yeah, okay, you do 5 minutes a day, 10, even 10 minutes a day. That'll give you something, some sort of like baseline, non-stressful sort of response, and maybe even give you the power to like not respond so quickly to things that are annoying to you or upsetting to you. But at the same time, it's like that's probably not enough to really have that deeper taste of it, which I think is what meditation was designed for. So I'm sort of ambivalent to it in that way. It's a good thing to do, and it's not going to be, I don't believe it's harmful for most people, but it also maybe is not the best thing if you're looking for like more worldly type of happiness.
Right, right. And I could understand that because then your own self and you're just thinking in your own um, I guess paradigm. And if you're trying to get worldly, then being in your own world will, I don't know, maybe hinder that. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot more philosophy to that, but
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting. Like, it's probably helpful, and it's even more helpful if you take it seriously and go farther and deeper.
okay, yeah. So kind of what you're saying is like if you scratch the surface, great, you might get a little bit of something, but I mean, it almost is like Buddhism is just a paradox. It's just full of paradoxes. So the further you go, the harder it's going to get, but then the more you potentially get out of it,
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
right?
I
It's
think
like,
yeah, definitely. It there are there is like a dip when it comes to any kind of thing that you're training, right? So if you take like weight training or whatever, there's like a gain and then you hit sort of a plateau and then kind of a dip, right? It's the same thing with meditation. And I think a lot of people that are kind of casual meditators, they actually never reach the plateau. So they just
yeah,
kind of if you're just only doing like, 5-10 minutes, which is totally fine, not casting dispersions on anybody at all that's doing that. But if you really want to go deep, you need longer practice and more structured practice. You probably need some kind of guide, if not early on, then like at least at the midpoint. And then you can sort of go through that dip where it's like, oh, this is challenging. And then come out on the other side where it's like, oh, now I am transformed in some way. So if you're really, I guess that's kind of the moral of what I'm saying is if you're really looking for a truly transformative experience, you have to get through the dip. But the same thing goes for anything, right? Any kind of practice. I mean, I know James, you work out a lot. So like same, you could probably think back to like where you plateaued and it's like, oh man, I'm not really making the gains that I want. My strength is kind of plateaued and a lot of people give up there. But if you have to push through it to get to the next level.
yeah, yeah, definitely understand that.
Mhm.
Okay, so just go through, and this was like at 16, you started getting into Buddhism and feeling that was like it. That's pretty incredible. How did you get introduced to Buddhism? Like what hit you with that?
So I started meditating as soon as I could drive, right? As soon as I could like be free. And my parents were very supportive, but they weren't necessarily practitioners. So I started meditating with more of like an energy based type of practice and then traditional like Zen Buddhism. And the energy stuff was really cool. And I still sort of practice some elements of that. So some things like Raja Yoga or Taoism or, like Qigong type practices that are, and one of the things that I like about that is it's really more open to everybody. You don't have to necessarily be like, I'm a Taoist and like take a ceremony. You can go do some really powerful kind of Qigong. Qigong is just Chinese. It means energy skill or energy work practices. And
Okay.
then I started studying with a Zen teacher at the same time. Roshi. Roshi just means like an abbot or a teacher in this lineage from the Soto Zen tradition. And he was remarkable. he was the kind of guy that, like, if you imagine a Zen master, it's like that was him, right? And he wasn't like manufacturing it. It was sort of early days of Zen in America. It had only been around for a few decades, and it was like real authentic. And so he actually had something. I wasn't sure what that thing was, and so he had kind of like an energy or a juice to him. And so that really solidified my path on that for my personal practice.
Wow, I mean, to think, I don't know, just to think, 16 years old, and you brought up like when you were driving, was that something special during that time? Like you driving because you were talking about freedom, driving freedom. Like, was that a big part of your journey as well? I mean,
No, it was just like I lived out in the country, and it was like I could go where I needed to go instead of
yeah,
having like my mom or dad drive me to like Zen
ah,
practice every Saturday, or like martial arts or all the stuff. So like that was the freedom. It wasn't like escaping anything. It was just,
yeah.
logistical.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
I get that. No, it is. Awesome when you can feel liberated just driving wherever you want, whenever you want.
Yeah.
So then after that, 16 and then getting into college, I mean, you've got a few different degrees here, spanning across psychology and comparative religion and that. So, what were you doing in that time? Did you have an entrepreneurial stint? Did you build something? Did you find something during those times when you're in college?
So when I was in school, my undergrad was in psychology, and I thought that I would go to be a therapist or something like that. And coaching and kind of personal development wasn't quite as solidified. It's not to say that it didn't exist, but it wasn't popularized or mainstream yet. It wasn't until 1997, Martin Seligman, he was the head of the American Psychological Association, gave a big speech saying, we need a positive psychology toward flourishing and all of this stuff. And so everybody started really focusing on coaching. And so I got a little bit, um, I don't know if jaded is the right word, discouraged, because I didn't want to be a therapist, and all of my peers are going to be therapists and all of that. And I really wanted to work with people and help them thrive. And so I went on to then study master's PhD in kind of philosophy with a concentration in psychology, actually. So I would take a lot of psychology classes, almost like a minor in psychology at that time. And so it's because I didn't see myself working as a therapist, and so I went into that world. And then after that, I actually started leading tours in Asia. So I led tours in Asia for a number of years, like through the Himalayas and places like that, kind of personal development tours. Because what else are you going to do with that degree, right? And so
Yeah,
that, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so during that time, I mean, there was times when I would bring back paintings, or I actually made a decent business because I had the background, like bringing back specific kinds of paintings for people that were wanting them, that were hard to find at that time. This was kind of pre, everything was on the internet. There's no eBay, at least
Yeah.
not
Oh, wow.
when we
Yeah.
did this stuff. Yeah.
That's
You
cool.
wouldn't, it doesn't make sense now, but like in those
Yeah.
days, that was the thing. Yeah.
Hey, man, however you got to do it. And that's the incredible, thing about people like you is just, you'll find a way. And that's your passion, and entrepreneur and building things and making things. And that's kind of what you did. You made something out of, nothing. But yeah, it's incredible to go to a whole different country and continent and then bring stuff back to sell it. How long were in the Asia?
Oh man, I was living off and on in Asia for like 8 years, um,
Oh,
just kind of bouncing back and forth and all of that. And I do want to say this, like these days, it's so common, I think, for people to think like I have to track in and do these specific things, and you can do that. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And at the same time, like whatever your passion is, whatever that thing is, you're going to find a niche market for it, especially within, social media and all of that stuff. Like I see so many people that have these niche skills, that could do these amazing things with them, and they don't want to take the leap into social media. Not that I'm not active on social media at all, but like you can find that audience in terms of whatever it is that you do. So if you're interested in, Japanese flower arranging, like find the audience that will learn Japanese flower arranging for you. Be the best that you can in that, whatever that thing is. And it's like no longer, actually, it's a better thing to do than to go into like computer programming or whatever, especially now with AI we're finding, right? So it's
Yeah.
like the safe and stable thing is probably not safe and stable anymore. Like you have to rely on your personality more.
Yeah. No, that
Yeah.
that makes sense. And just watching AI evolve, it's just incredible. And if you watch a YouTube or you know, um, a company press conference or something, I mean, it changes 3 or 4 days later. Some other company has got something. So yeah, it's almost like just kind of stick to your roots and build it, and they will come type thing. Especially with all the social media that's out there, like you're saying, that you can reach so many different people.
Yeah. I used to have an issue with this because it's so hard to be like at the top of whatever you're doing, right? So if I'm like, let's say I want to be the top executive coach, the top 5%, that's actually really hard to do, but it's not so hard to be like the top 25%. So like
Mm,
with a reasonable amount of effort, you can be in the top 25% of one thing. And then this guy was saying, draw a circle, draw like a Venn diagram and put whatever the thing is. So for me, like, let's say it's executive coaching, and then draw another Venn diagram and try to be in the top 25% of that. So like, let's say you'd be in the top 25% of martial arts practitioners or teachers or meditation teachers or something. So if you can be in the top 25% of either of those or both of those, then you're in the top 5% of people that combine those two things, right? So it's
right.
like, oh, I'm also like, let's say I'm really into the carnivore diet, right? And I'm really into the carnivore diet and I'm a chef. So if I can be the top 25% of people that know about those two things, now all of a sudden, boom, I'm in the top 5%. Versus if I'm just a chef, it's hard to be in the top 5% of chefs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so many around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and are you kind of touching on that? Is that what you're doing with Debo? Like doing this new, or, I mean, it's new to me, just kind of popping up what you're doing with Debo, the transformation thing. Is that kind of part of this new finding
Yeah.
that?
So what the thing, so that is we're calling it the Alchemist Retreat. And it's just myself and three other coaches that are getting together and we're trying to do, well, we're not trying, we're all experienced like personal development people, different kind of areas in our life. And we're all really, they all are really talented. I feel like I'm okay. And
Shoot.
they, so the idea is that these days, especially with AI, like what I'm finding is that people really crave in-person sort of learning stuff, kind of similar to what I was doing back in Asia a long time ago. It's like people want to go somewhere, they want to have an experience, they want to connect with people. And so it's like part about community building, part about that personal connection, part about like actually going to a physical place. So it's sort of like, this is the idea anyway, James. It's not, we'll see. I'll tell,
Yeah.
it took me after like November after, and we'll see how it went. But the idea is that it's sort of the opposite of the modernization in AI and like a
Yeah.
return to human centered and impactful connection. And the concept is that more and more people want that, need it, kind of crave it. And so we're going to see how it goes. We don't know. TBD though. We did
Yeah.
it. We're doing it in Tulum, Mexico. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of discussion about it. Like, should we do it in somewhere in Austin or in North Carolina or wherever? And we landed in Tulum because it's a really cool place, like where the resort where we're holding it, they have their own personal cenote, which is like a underground water cavern. Um, so the idea is like the environment is going to be conducive to it, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I did look at pictures of the resort and just, I talked to Devo for a little bit, but just coming from you and knowing you and, you've been my coach prior to this and I can't imagine those other coaches and what level they're going to be at. So, whoever signs up and goes is going to have an incredible time. So is there going to be like sessions where you meet with different coaches? Are they pegged up with you guys, or is it going to
Yeah.
be
So
a different
the
kind of?
idea, yeah, that's a good question. The idea is, I think there are going to be 3 hour sessions with each person in the group, right? So there will be group sessions, 3 hour sessions with. So you might be with me, you might be with somebody else that's with us. Another coach is named Sam Hunter. So you might be with Sam, and then we're all going to be there, myself included. It's like participatory. So there'll be like these group sessions, and then we're thinking there's going to be some breakout groups too. But we need to see how many people and how and all of that. But the idea is that we're all kind of there together. It's all it's like a cauldron, to be able to transform into something. And the idea here too is like all of us are, I would say, like on the business coaching side, but it's not
Hmm.
necessarily how to like make your business. It doesn't need to be as tactical as that. It's like
Yeah.
about really transforming ourselves first, so that way we can have the success that we're looking for.
Okay, okay. So, and the people that are gonna be there, or I mean, individuals like probably myself that are like looking to get to the next level, or you know, I mean, I'm always looking to level up. So, is that kind of what you guys are looking for, or level up
Yes.
in business and personal? Like, what are these people gonna feel and be like when they get out of here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're trying to be broad enough to invite people that I think would be good. So what I did is just go through, my list of clients and think like, okay, what kind of person? And it's not necessarily only entrepreneurs, right? So like entrepreneurs, yes, but I also work with CEOs, founders, I guess, are entrepreneurial, but people that have been in corporate for a long time, people that are really trying to become the best version of themselves. So it's like you may feel stuck, maybe you don't feel stuck, maybe you feel like you've been on an upward trajectory, and then it's like how do we supercharge that moving forward. So it really is, we're looking for like positive people, driven people, people that know intuitively that there's a next level for them, and maybe they've tried and haven't got there yet, maybe they haven't even tried, but whatever they're trying to do, those next level tools. So whether it's getting the next level of your business, getting a promotion, maybe even transforming your personal
Okay, okay. So, kind of. I mean, sounds holistic, kind of grabbing everything. I mean, we like to talk like work-life balance, but let's be real. I mean, yes, there is a balance, but it's all interconnected.
Yeah, I always tell
Is it?
people that's it. Let's talk about work-life balance.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. I always tell people like when I'm coaching them that I coach the whole person, and especially when I'm on the executive coaching side. When I'm working with an executive at Amazon or something like it, that might be different than what they're used to because they're just like we want delegation strategies or we want communication techniques or whatever. But if you don't do the inner work, like you can read about any kind of tool or technique, but it's like how do you actually apply that? Number one, how do you even do it? Number two, how do you do it in a way that's authentic to you? And then number three, how do you not get in your own way and stop yourself from doing the thing that you need to do? And I will tell you from doing this for years and years, like it's about unlocking that possibility first, because really when it comes down to it, it's not about the tool, it's about our mindset around the tool. And
Hmm.
it's not maybe the most marketable position because people want tools. People are like, oh yeah, my mindset's great, just give me the tools. And it's like, okay, here's some tools, and then they go out and try to apply it and they get stuck because it actually is their mindset. Same thing with business. It's oftentimes our mind. I would say most of the time it's our mindset that's blocking us.
Yeah, and I guess how I would think of it is like a organization transformation that I've done, and it's almost like the people in the organization, all the stakeholders, they have to understand and buy into it and really understand what it's doing and what the training and what the implementation is going to be and what it's going to do. At least that's what I felt, because transforming 40, 50 employees and trying to get them to do the same thing or follow a plan. It's like you got to go in, you've got to build trust, they've got to understand you, and yeah, they have to be willing to be vulnerable. So does that kind of follow the same path, do you think, as far as an executive, to really kind of like be willing to learn and be a sponge? And at
Yes,
least that's what
I like I absolutely agree. I think about it more as openness than vulnerability, even though I know like with Brene Brown and her stuff, like vulnerable is sort of a hot word right now. But
I.
yeah, being open, and the first step is like recognizing a pattern, being open to understanding it. And then the next step is like, how do you apply the disruption to that pattern after you decide whether you want to change it or not? Right. So like, okay, here's a pattern. Like I'm doing this thing. I'm taking on my own work, or I'm taking on other people's work because I want to get it done fast. Right. And so I'm not delegating. All right. That's a pattern. Do we want to disrupt that? If we do, then how? And then once we know how, like where do we have the awareness to be able to do that? Right. But if I just give you some like delegation techniques, you're not going to do them because you have all kinds of ideas, stories in your mind that are like, well, they're overloaded and I just need to do it. Or I need to do more work because I'm the boss. Or, they're new and they can't do it as fast as me.
Mhm.
or we're really under the gun, and so we have to do this right away, right? So there's all kinds of, so that's all mindset that's going to stop you every step of the way. And then
Okay.
going back to work-life balance, man, it's such an interesting thing. I like the idea, the concept of, I like the concept of have space in your life for things that are not considered work. I don't like the divide of I have my work and my life. Like that's false. And my question then becomes, how can we make work more enjoyable and also have the space and the freedom to enjoy things that you don't identify as work? Because the separation between my work and my life is actually, I think, damaging. So maybe it's semantics, but that's how I think about it.
Yeah. No, no, I could agree. I could agree. Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely a whole nother subject, but I mean, I liked how you said if they could, would you say find happiness in their business or their professional with their personal lives. I mean, that's true again, because, you're going to get phone calls, you're going to get interrupted. I feel like, most people try to keep their family away or their spouses and their kids. And yeah, I understand that, but at some degree, it's got to kind of all mix. They have to know what you're going through. Maybe your top executives need to know the lifestyle that you have and what you're involved with. So, they all kind of become peers and friends in the end. So, maybe there's again, a fine line of introducing that, but I just, yeah, there's really not a lot of work life balance, I would say, or it's a
Yeah,
thing.
the common denominator between work and life is you, right? We are the ones that are experiencing the so-called work and the so-called non-work life, right?
Yeah,
And so it's like, how do we make sure that we are showing up as clear and aware for ourselves as we want to be in both of those? And how are we creating what we want on either side?
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because people are going to say, you don't need work life balance. You need work life balance. Well, it's like, well, there is no right or wrong, but you just have to deal. You have to deal with it. Um,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I got a couple questions that yeah, let's see. Um, yeah, okay. So what is one key principle you teach your clients about making better and more aligned decisions under pressure? Because like you were saying, it's like they're kind of picking all these different things out and saying that's. But what is the one key principle? And I'm sorry if you mentioned it, but
No, no, no.
uh,
That's, I mean, it's always good to go through. I'm a big proponent of Pareto's law, Pareto's principle, all of that, like the 80-20 rule. I don't know if you're familiar with, there was a good book called Essentialism. I talk about it in my book, at least for a chapter. And it's this concept that 80% of what we do it's maybe useful, but it's not vital, right? So it's like somewhat effective, but there's 20% of what we do that's vital, meaning if you took one of that 20% away, it would be destructive or catastrophic to whatever it is that you're trying to do. And so I'm a big proponent of trying to identify what's the 20% and what's the 80%, and then kind of reduce the 80% or offload it or whatever. So one of the things, and like how you know that is this aligned with my core priorities, right? So like the question, what's the thing that I can do right now that is most aligned with my core priorities? Or you can ask yourself, is this aligned with exactly what my core priorities are? Or like if there's a decision point and it's like, okay, go on a podcast or not. Does the podcast align with your core priorities or not? If the answer is no, then don't do it. Or if you can't say no, then offload it or push it out or whatever. If the answer is yes, then do it. So the same thing we need to be asking ourselves daily. How might I structure my day to
mhm.
most further my goals or my core priorities, whatever those are? So that's kind of the decision making tree. I don't know if it may sound simple, but it's pretty complicated going back to mindset, because what ends up happening is we tell ourselves that we have to do all those 50 other things, right? And I work with people that are like this, some more than others. Like some people are pretty stubborn around like, well, I've got to do this, this, and this, and this. And it's like, okay, imagine, for instance, a situation where you could offload those things, you could delegate, you could let go of that. Like, what would that free you up to then do? And what can you go big on versus where do you get stuck, right? Um, so that's, I guess, my core decision making principle. And not to say
Yeah.
that I am not the avatar of that in by any means, right? Like, even though I know it and I teach it all that, it's challenging.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Um, yeah, it kind of takes me back to when, I'd work with directors and managers, and we try to figure out what their day to day needs to look like. You've got cross functional teams. You're, doing 100 something surgery cases a day, and I would just have them write out everything that they do. And then you kind of take a look at it and you can say like, oh, this is fluff. This is, kind of exactly what you're saying. It's like you could really look at that list and be like, okay, this is the 20% and this is the 80%. And let's
Right.
let's let's delegate that out, and then let's focus on the 20 that are gonna help make things more efficient, bring the culture around and things like that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay, that's cool. That's very neat. Yeah, Pareto was definitely very important.
yeah.
Um, let's see. Yeah, I'd like to talk about yeah. So culture. What truly makes a high performing, healthy workplace culture? What do you think that entails?
It's an interesting question. So when I think of healthy culture, one of the ways that I think about it is kind of on this quadrant, right? And it's like, well, people have to like each other. So you have to like each other, but you also have to be driven. So if you're driven and you don't like each other, then you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out people, or like too driven. And then if you like each other, but you're not driven, you're going to have like, well, I imagine like one of my friends used to work in a newsroom, like an old newsroom where everybody's kind of like, yeah, this is fine, not they're just comfortable and there's not a lot of like bustling and it's just like, yeah, it's comfortable, like the velvet coffin, so to speak. So you have like those two things. So you have to have, or if it's like you're not driven and you don't like each other, then it's like everybody's fighting all the time, right? So what you have to have is like a high degree of cohesion, meaning like people like each other, people understand the mission, the vision, values, all of that. And there's a way to discuss conflict. And you also have to have like high expectations. You have to have clear accountability. You have to have clear rules and responsibility. Um, so you have to have both of those things. And so usually when I work with an organization or a team, they're usually lacking one of those two things. Usually not both, because the people that hire me tend to be kind of at least mid-level performing. I don't do a lot of like remedial stuff. So if I were to boil it down into two words, it's like clarity on the one side, clarity, being driven, accountability, and then also enjoying each other, team cohesion, and all that. If you've got those two things, you can do almost anything. But I
Right.
will say this, James, like a caveat to that is people really underestimate how much change even just moving one person around is. So even if it's like one person leaves or you get another person in, or it could even just be like a big shakeup. So like maybe somebody takes on a big project and then somebody else lets go of a big project. Every single time that happens, there's like this cycle of things that happens, like the storming, forming, norming, or excuse me, forming, storming, norming cycle. Maybe you've heard of it. And it's like every time a team forms, then there's like this stormy period because people are trying to understand where they are and where their place is in the new organization level.
Hmm.
And I don't even mean like a new person coming in. I just mean like how the team is organized. And so when I work with teams, there's underestimation every single time. Every single time, they're like, "Oh, we're bringing in Johnny, and Johnny's great, and everybody wants him to be there, and Johnny's a high performer." But it's like as soon as Johnny comes in, now there's all these problems. And it's like, "Oh, we weren't expecting that." It's like, well, that happens every time. You have to have extreme clarity at that
Right. Right. And and what are your thoughts about like organizations doing disc tests, or those type of personality tests before they even onboard, so they can kind of see what they're looking at. I've read that book, and I can't remember what it's in. Cotterman, maybe Stephen Cotterman or something like that. But
Sure.
to do these personality tests before you hired, so you know what you're getting. What are your thoughts about that?
So I like assessments of any kind,
Mhm.
typically as like data points, but you still don't really escape the cycle, right? Like even the person, so like let's say you do a disc assessment or a Myers-Briggs or an Enneagram test or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, James is going to be the perfect fit into our organization. Yeah, that's true. But people will still seek out certainty and like boundaries of things. And so they subconsciously will test things. So even if you like pre-assess somebody and they come in and you think it's going to be a perfect fit, it will be and it can be, but there's still going to be that period where everybody else is like looking for clarity and they'll fall back into old patterns. So some of them will become like more of a sycophant, like yes boss kind of person. Another person might distance themselves. Somebody else might cause a little drama, and it might be subtle, it might be small,
Mhm.
but you see this all the time. And so yes, assessments are great, and you still need to have an eye toward like how do we have team cohesion, when
Yeah.
do I have clarity, and when do I have collaboration.
Okay. And then speaking of, I mean, clarity and collaboration is, would you recommend doing peer interviews, or at least a couple people from the team, or how 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 do you recommend that? Because one
So I
person can create can be cancerous to an organization, or
for sure.
six, seven people.
Yeah, so clarity, what I recommend is like going back and revisiting the why of whatever it is you're doing. So it could be, depending on your group, it could be like your mission or vision, it could be your personal north star. So maybe you're trying to be like the best whatever team, the best property management team on the East Coast or something. So like get clear about that. Also like revisit roles and responsibilities for everybody early on, like when there's a new change.
Mm.
And then from there, you can build more of a collaborative piece. And that could be just be like a week or 2 weeks. And then after, when the collaboration, when things start to gel a little bit more, then it's like have more of the discussions, and it goes in waves. It like ebbs and flows, right? And then peer to peer, what I recommend is when new people come in, you can have this like guide to me or an engineering relationships type of discussion where it's like, hey, here's how I work best, here's how you work best, or and it's like a back and forth with each other.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had experience with that, and wanted to get your, just what you thought about that. Um, yeah. Okay. So I guess kind of jumping back into, well, let's see. Okay. Yeah. How do you help high performers with their goals, and keep them from burnout? Like, they're already driven. They're going to beat themselves up. I mean, want the best for themselves, but how do you get them from burning out? What is your key to that?
So that's a challenge, but it's actually fairly straightforward and simple. So if you have somebody that's like a high achiever, and to keep them from burnout, but they still want to reach their goals, you need to do a couple of things. One, the first is that 80-20 rule. So it's like, what's the 20% of goals that would actually feel really good? Because high achievers have been told this lie by themselves and by other people that they can just do it all. So they can do it all, bring it on. We're going to do more, 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 more. You can do more stuff, and then you get overloaded. And they can do more than most people. And then all of a sudden it like kind of crashes, and they don't, and then they're like, I'm burnout, or this place is not healthy, or whatever it is. So getting clear on what the vital few are in terms of your goals, like what, and oftentimes, so like in a coaching capacity, it's like, what's the dream behind the dream with that? And then figuring out what that is. So let's say you're going to start a business, and the business, is making $100,000 a year, and you want to get it to $500,000 a year. You're just like a solopreneur kind of guy. And it's like, okay, that's great. Let's set that as a goal. And what's the thing that makes you happy after that? So like, let's say you're making $500,000 a year. Like, what are you going to then go do and be happy doing? It's like, oh, well, I really love traveling. It's like, okay, so maybe you don't have the money to travel right now the way you want to, but where can you travel in small ways that gives you that same sense of like travel and excitement and adventure? So it's like understanding the dream behind the dream, or the motivation behind the motivation, is number one. And then narrowing those goals, that 80-20 rule, at the same time. And then this is going to sound really, I don't know how it'll sound, but this is a big one. So high achievers typically, not always, don't celebrate their own success. And so when I work with high achievers, 90% of the time, if you say, "Oh, hey, good job on, getting to 500,000 or whatever," they'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, it was good. I wish I could have got there sooner." Or a lot of people helped me get there. Or, it's just like immediate. They immediately discount their own success around something. And
Yeah.
so getting them to actually, in Positive Intelligence by a guy named Shazad Shamin, he talks about this as like the achievement saboteur. So it's like that judgmental, critical part of ourselves that says if you celebrate your success, you won't have more success. So you got to push, 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 and go, go, go. It's not about what you've done; it's about what you're going to do. The problem is you never get there, right? So it's like always you're just okay. You got to 500,000, but now you're going to get to 5 million. Oh, you're gonna now you travel to 16 countries, but you should have been to like 18 countries and a half by now, like whatever it is. So getting high achievers to slow down and to actually celebrate their success on a visceral level, meaning like they need to actually feel it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Almost, so going back to kind of meditation, it's a form of mindset work that kind of borders on meditation, but it's not long. It could be just like a minute, and really feel your success and allow yourself to feel it. That actually is the best thing to do to unlock higher levels of success, and it's one of the hardest things for high achievers to do.
Yeah.
If you can just do that, if there are any high achievers listening and you just do that, you will be great. You'll do great.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, reminds me of, or just even some of my employees, and for even for myself, is like having to find those couple of little, even the little wins, right? But you do have to, and you can go along, and then sooner or later just become numb to your good doing. And so that's what I've been instilling in my employees is like, man, good job on doing that task or that little thing, and trying to get them to thinking, not giving them false hope, but letting them know, hey, that thing you did, make a check mark, make something known that that was good. Because I fall into it as well. It's like, man, you just keep going
Yeah.
and going and going, and it's almost like Tony Robbins said something like, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So it's kind of like, well, if you're not going to take note of where you've been and how you got there and actually feel it, and you're right, and that's one thing that I've been doing. Sorry to get a little, one-sided, but that's what I have been doing, Nick, is like really truly feeling certain things, and meditating on it, and why am I feeling that, and understanding why that happened. So
Yeah.
and that goes along with that. Just you've got to have these little wins and think about all the pieces that brought it together and what you did, and all the your cross-functional, or logistics that you had to do, and the people that you had to call, and the information that you had to assess, and blah blah blah. And it's like there's a lot of work that we take for granted that we're capable of doing, and we just shoo it off until we hit the next thing, and then we're in the cycle again.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And I like what you're saying about like find little wins. Like our subconscious mind doesn't really know the difference between a little win and a big win. Like
Mhm.
that's just our regular thinking mind that tells us that. So you can take literally anything, any small thing, and as long as you can get a positive feeling about it, that is what I'm talking about. That's the kind of enjoyment level. One of the things that I used to give this as homework to people, and then nobody did it, so I stopped doing it. But one of the things you can do is to train your mind to realize that like the positive feelings that you have are internal and not derived. They're coming from inside and not coming from something outside. So an example is like imagine seeing a beautiful sunset and try to take your mind back to that place and really experience the beauty of that sunset. Maybe you're like almost brought to tears. Maybe it's really beautiful. And then take a crumpled piece of paper and open your eyes and look at that crumpled piece of paper and see if you can see something as beautiful in that crumpled piece of paper and really like reflect your mind. But I think it's probably too challenging for most people. I don't think a single person did it successfully. But I
I
can tell you
mean,
it's possible. Like it is possible.
well, okay, so I guess one way to think of it is like, your partner bought you a car or something, you bought a house or like a milestone or an achievement, right? and
Hmm.
then have that partner, if this is like your love language, like they left a note in your lunchbox or they left it on the refrigerator and was like, hey, I love you so much, blah blah blah. And it's like, bang, I kind of got those. It's so small. It was just a note, and it took them literally some ink and 2 seconds, and they wrote something. So there wasn't a lot of energy or build up or money or but what happened when they left that note for you? You probably got those same similar feelings or somewhere around there. So I kind of understand what you're saying, and at least that's what I try to kind of put visualize it for other people or just my employees, like just find that one little thing that you can feel good about.
The
So
more often and deeply you can have that feeling, the more successful you will become.
okay, okay. So again, it kind of ties back into meditation, because if you can calm your mind enough to really see that image and evoke that feeling, well then you can kind of have that anytime you want and be able to do that. And and I guess coming from the other side of the you know like coming from somebody who doesn't do that as much as they should, it's like you almost just think you're going to run out of all the good things to tell yourself, and it's going to be like, oh, I'm just inflating myself. But it makes sense. I mean, it totally makes sense. Just
Yeah,
trying to find that one thing and tie it back to other little things to still have that same feeling.
exactly. No, that's a good way to say it.
Huh. Okay, man. Well, Nick, I think I'm good, man. I've asked all the questions that I could, and I really appreciate your time on the
Yeah,
show today. I really
awesome.
do. I've been
It was
waiting for
great.
this. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good seeing
I
you.
appreciate it. It's good to see you. Good to connect. And yeah, man, I anytime like this is it's been a fun experience. I can rant about philosophical topics and leadership stuff all day. It's fun.
Man, I love it, and I'm excited for you and Devo. I won't be able to go this year, but man, I'm certainly looking forward to doing that the next time you have it, wherever you guys have it. I'm on board, man. I
Yeah,
look
it
forward
should
to
be really
that.
fun. So hopefully there will be many more to come.
Oh, I'm sure there will. I'm sure it'll be a good turnout. You guys will learn so much. Y'all will reconvene and figure out what worked, what didn't, and what we can
Yeah.
add.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
One question I like to ask all my guests is, what what is something that nobody knows about you that maybe you wish everybody did?
I'm a this is a true this is gonna sound funny, but this is a true fact. I am an excellent juggler.
Prove it.
I can I
Prove
can
it.
juggle. I don't have any I
Prove
don't have anything to juggle. Next show, I promise,
it.
next show I will show you.
Okay, yeah.
Excellent might be a stretch, but I taught myself to juggle when I was a kid, and I'm very proud of the fact that I can juggle and I enjoy it. It's super fun.
That is cool, man. That is cool. Hey, man, I really appreciate the time. I hope you have an awesome day, man. Good luck in your juggling skills and the retreat. Hey, yeah, you got to do that at the retreat. Little practice there.
Now that the world knows, man,
Hey,
I'll
you're gonna
show
have to
off
do it. All right,
juggling
Nick.
skills. All right, take
Hey,
care, Jamie.
man,
Appreciate it.
greatly appreciate it. You too, man.
Yeah,
Bye.
take care.